5 Impossible Spider-Man Stunts. Welcome to Hollywood Debunked. Today, we're looking at 5 of Spider-Man's wildest stunts. Could any of them happen in real life? From swinging between skyscrapers to stopping a speeding train, we'll break down the science behind each. Stick around till the end to find out which Spider-Man stunt might actually be possible and how it could play out in everyday life. All right, let's talk Spider-Man. Specifically that iconic web-slinging action. Who hasn't seen him swinging through New York and thought, man, that looks like fun? But let's peel back the comic book cover and look at the reality. Spider-Man's webbing is portrayed as super strong, almost magical material. Spider silk in the real world is shockingly strong, pound for pound, even stronger than steel. But we haven't been able to perfectly replicate that in a lab, not on the scale Spider-Man needs. To support his weight and let him swing at those speeds, the webbing would have to be unbelievably strong. We're talking about forces that would snap even the toughest ropes we have. And let's not forget about poor Spidey himself. Those rapid changes in direction, the sudden stops, they generate some serious G-forces. Our bodies, even with superhuman strength, aren't meant to handle that kind of stress. So while swinging itself isn't impossible, the way Spider-Man does it is pushing the boundaries of what's physically possible. One of Spider-Man's signature moves is his ability to cling to any surface, defying gravity with ease. But how much of that is comic book magic? And how much is based on real science? Geckos, for example, are masters of adhesion. They have tiny hairs on their feet called setae, which create a strong grip. Scientists are developing materials that mimic this gecko grip. Imagine if we could create gloves and boots that let us climb like a gecko. For now, Spider-Man's wall-crawling abilities remain science fiction. Catching a car in mid-air. Now, this is a stunt that always gets my attention. Picture this. A car is plummeting from a bridge, about to meet a messy end, and bam! Spider-Man swoops in, webs flying, and catches the car in mid-air, saving the day. It's a classic superhero moment, but could it happen in real life? Well, let's break out the physics calculator and find out. First, we've got to consider the weight of a car. We're talking about a couple of tons of metal, plastic, and rubber falling at a significant speed. To stop that kind of momentum, you need a counterforce that's not only strong, but also able to dissipate that energy without snapping. Even if Spider-Man's webbing is tougher than steel, we run into another problem: anchoring. Imagine trying to hold onto a fire hose with the water blasting out at full force. You wouldn't just need strong arms, you'd need something to brace yourself against. The same principle applies to Spider-Man catching a car. He'd need to anchor himself to something incredibly sturdy to avoid being yanked along with the falling vehicle. So, while it's a thrilling scene, the physics just don't add up. Stopping a speeding train. This one's a doozy. In Spider-Man 2, our hero pulls off one of his most impressive feats of strength, stopping a runaway train with nothing but his webs. Now I know what you're thinking. Come on, it's a comic book movie. Suspend your disbelief. And normally I'm all for that. But this stunt is so over the top, it deserves a closer look. Let's talk about momentum for a second. A train, especially a fully loaded one, has an incredible amount of it. We're talking about thousands of tons of metal hurtling down the tracks at breakneck speed. To stop that kind of mass, you'd need an equally incredible force acting in the opposite direction. Even if Spider-Man's webbing was somehow strong enough to handle that kind of stress, the sudden deceleration would be catastrophic. The train wouldn't just stop gently. It would be like hitting a brick wall at full speed. The force would ripple through the train cars, potentially derailing them or causing massive damage. And Spider-Man himself? Well, let's just say he'd be lucky to walk away from that one. Stopping a speeding train is a job for the brakes, not for superhero acrobatics. Spider sense. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Spider-Man's spider sense, that tingling feeling that warns him of danger, is one of his most mysterious and debated powers. It seems almost supernatural, like precognition or something. But could there be a scientific basis for it? Well, in a way, yes. Think about our own senses for a second. We're constantly bombarded with information, sights, sounds, smells, and our brains are filtering and processing it all in milliseconds. Most of the time, we're not even consciously aware of it. But sometimes, our subconscious picks up on something. A subtle change in the environment, a flicker of movement in our peripheral vision, and it triggers a reaction. We instinctively duck, dodge, or jump out of the way, often without even knowing why. That's our own built-in danger sense in action. It's not magic. It's our brains working overtime to keep us safe. Now, Spider-Man's spider sense is obviously much more acute and reliable than anything we experience. But the underlying principle isn't that far-fetched. So, while we might not all be dodging bullets with our eyes closed anytime soon, maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of Spider-Man's spider sense in all of us. So, there you have it. While Spider-Man's stunts might stretch the laws of physics, there's a glimmer of truth in his spider sense. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and follow us for more Hollywood stunt analysis.